60% of a young person's waking hours are committed to essential activities like school, homework, eating, or chores. How they spend the other 40% can obviously dramatically impact how they develop. In our wonderful city of New York, 1.7 million children, about 500,000, live in households with incomes below the federal poverty level. And then the witching hours, the hours of 3 to 6, pose heightened risks for young people, including exposure to violence, sex, and drugs. Juvenile crime and victimization peak in the hours between 3 and 6. Research has shown that the success of kids depends more on what they're doing with their after-school time rather than the fact that their parents may not be there for them. Kids allowed to hang out with their friends without some form of adult supervision get into significantly more trouble than those who were kept busy. That really struck me when Allison shared that with me, and then I said to myself, well, why PACE? And PACE has the largest network of after-school providers in the country, over 1,600 community-based organizations, 1,000 individual and institutional funders, 65 colleges and universities with whom they closely partner, and as I mentioned earlier, over 9,000 after-school professionals. As a network leader, PACE is uniquely positioned to serve as the 3 C's: collaborator, connector, and catalyst, and virtually all of their offerings are provided free of charge. So why am I interested in PACE? I grew up in Manhattan, and I think this is the first time I met the Manhattan Borough President, so nice to meet you. I grew up in the Dyckman Street housing projects in the tip of Manhattan in an area called Inwood. I had 8 siblings, and it was a by and large wonderful experience to live in the Dyckman Street housing projects in the early 60s. It was a place that was a home to immigrants of all nationalities, color, and religions, a true melting pot. Friday nights were filled with singing, neighborhoods getting together, sharing good times and bad, and at the time, no one bothered to lock their doors, for real. Then came in the late 60s. My 2 brothers went to Vietnam, as did other young men in the neighborhood. Some never returned. Drugs found their way into our neighborhood, and we started to lock our doors. What struck me is that the kids that didn't have much to do after school seemed to always be in trouble. And after I talked to Ken and Allison, I thought back about 2 friends. An older friend who was 14 years old at the time, by the name of Paula, went to a party and had a drug overdose and died. Another older friend who was 15, Kevin, started this group called the Young Hoods, got into drugs, and he passed away. There's a saying that my mother likes to share, and there's a lot of truth in it, although I didn't think it when I was a kid. If the devil finds a person idle, he'll set him to work. I don't think that was the Irish, by the way. I think it was probably the English. Anyways, research would tell you that when kids aren't busy and active, they tend to overthink or not think at all. Basically, it makes them feel worthless, and the idleness that sets in makes them more vulnerable in their minds and certainly more impressionable. I couldn't help but wonder if an organization like PACE existed back in, oh my God, it's so long ago, I hate to say how long ago it was, but anyways, I wonder if Paula and Kevin would still be with us today and what their lives would have been like, as well as many other young people in our neighborhood that didn't make it out. So with the growth in single parents, with the growth of both parents needing to work in our economy, there's obviously been a growth of children being alone in the most critical hours after school. In my mind, and I've spent quite a bit of time reading all the materials Allison has been kind enough to share, PACE is a solution to occupying those children by providing after-school education to keep them away from the negative influences so they can become productive citizens of society and realize their potential on the upside, not the downside. I thank you for your time, for listening. I hope that you in some way, shape, or form can find it in your hearts to help participate in helping PACE. I hope someday we can leave our doors open again. But more realistically, after education that's provided after school, if we continue to support that and expand that, I really do believe we'll expand young minds, reduce the number of people we lock out or lock up, and I think that's critically important and something, at least from my perspective, is important to give back. I'm one of the people that got out of that area, which ultimately became the drug capital of the world. So I'd like to give back, and like I said, if you find it in your hearts to give back too, it would be greatly appreciated. Anyways, enjoy the rest of the evening, and God bless. Thank you.